Welcome to Terrifyingly Haunted. Videos are uploaded daily. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Arkansas has a haunted reputation that runs deeper than a few ghost stories told after dark. Across the state, old hotels, historic theaters, Civil War battlefields, cemeteries, and abandoned institutions carry the weight of war, tragedy, fire, disease, and memory. In places like these, the stories linger because the history lingers first. What makes Arkansas especially compelling is that so many of its haunted locations are not isolated legends. They are tied to real events, real people, and buildings that were built to serve communities at their most vulnerable moments. The result is a state full of places where the past seems stubbornly unwilling to stay buried. Tonight, we're counting down the top 10 most haunted locations in Arkansas. Number 10. The Basin Park Hotel, Eureka Springs. Eureka Springs is one of the most atmospheric towns in the South, and the Basin Park Hotel sits right in the center of that old-world tension. Built in the late 1800s, the hotel has survived fire, rebuilding, changing eras of tourism, and generations of stories about strange footsteps, unexplained presences, and rooms that never quite feel empty. The building's history helps explain why so many people find it unsettling. Eureka Springs drew visitors because of its healing waters, and the town quickly became a destination for people seeking rest, recovery, and escape. Hotels like Basin Park were part of that boom, serving travelers from all walks of life. Over the decades, guests have described phantom movement in hallways, sudden chills, and the feeling that they were not the only ones staying there. The haunted reputation of Basin Park comes from more than one incident or one witness. It is the kind of place where the accumulation of years seems to settle into the walls. Historic hotels often hold on to that atmosphere, but Basin Park seems to carry it with unusual intensity. Number 9. The Old Washington County Courthouse, Fayetteville. Courthouses often become haunted, not because they are abandoned, but because they are places where human conflict was formalized. The Old Washington County Courthouse in Fayetteville has long been linked to eerie reports, with people describing unexplained sounds, strange shadows, and the heavy feeling that the building remembers the suffering and tension of the cases once handled there. Historic courthouses sit at the center of a community's most serious decisions. Property disputes, criminal trials, family breakdowns, and public arguments all pass through these rooms. That kind of emotional history can make a building feel charged in a way that newer structures never quite match. What gives the old courthouse its dark reputation is its age and its role as a witness to countless lives changed by legal judgment. Even when a place is preserved as history, it can still feel alive with the pressure of the past. In Fayetteville, that pressure seems to have never fully gone away. Number 8. The Old Malco Theatre. Lights fade, stories linger. Old theatres are naturally good places for hauntings because they were built around performance, illusion, and crowds that came and went in waves. The Old Malco Theatre in Blytheville has gathered its share of ghost stories over the years, including reports of figures in empty seats, movement on stage when no one is there, and a sense that the building still expects an audience. Theatre spaces often become haunted in folklore because they retain a kind of emotional residue. Every performance leaves behind applause, tension, disappointment, excitement, and exhaustion. The Old Malco's long life in the community only deepens that impression. Buildings like this do not merely age, they absorb eras. Part of what makes the Old Malco so memorable is that theatres are supposed to be places of controlled experience. You enter knowing the story has been staged for you. But in a haunted theatre, the feeling changes. It becomes less about watching a performance and more about wondering whether something unseen has decided to watch back. Number 7. Mount Holly Cemetery. Quiet beauty veils old sorrow. Mount Holly Cemetery is one of the most historically significant burial grounds in Arkansas, and it carries the kind of atmosphere that naturally invites ghost stories. Established in the 19th century, it became the resting place for many of the state's most prominent figures, including politicians, military leaders, and influential families. But prominence does not silence sorrow, and cemeteries like this often become the center of reports involving apparitions, strange lights, and unexplained sensations. What makes Mount Holly especially compelling is the contrast between its beauty and its melancholy. It is a place of ornate monuments, old trees, and quiet pathways, but beneath that calm lies the full story of Arkansas history: war, loss, ambition, and the fragile permanence of memory. People who visit often describe feeling watched or sensing a presence near certain graves. Cemeteries rarely need embellishment to feel haunted. Their power comes from what they already are. Mount Holly's reputation endures because it holds the dead of an entire era in a landscape that still feels close to the living. Number 6. The Crescent Hotel, grandeur masking tragic echoes. If Arkansas has one landmark that stands above nearly all others in haunted folklore, it is the Crescent Hotel. Built in 1886, this grand stone hotel has served many roles over the years, including luxury resort, junior college, and most famously, a site associated with dark medical deception during the late 1930s. That period, when it operated as a cancer hospital under Norman Baker, left a stain on the building's legacy that still echoes through every ghost story told there. The Crescent's haunted reputation is built on layers. There are reports of apparitions in period clothing, unexplained voices, strange activity in guest rooms, and the persistent feeling that the hotel never fully returned to its original purpose after years of misuse. It is also one of the most well-known destinations for paranormal tourism in the country. What makes the Crescent so frightening is that its history is not just spooky, it is tragic. The building's elegance hides the memory of suffering, exploitation, and broken trust. That contrast gives the hotel its power. It is beautiful, but never innocent. Number 5. Wilson Springs. Stillness sharpens every sound. Wilson Springs is one of those Arkansas locations that carries a reputation rooted in local legend and recurring personal testimony. Situated near Lake Village, it has long been associated with eerie encounters, unexplained lights, and stories of a presence tied to the area's history and isolation. Like many rural haunted sites, its power comes from the fact that it sits far from the noise of modern life, where silence itself can become part of the story. Places like Wilson Springs often become supernatural landmarks because they sit at the edge of memory and folklore. The details can vary from one account to another, but the emotional structure remains the same: a sense of being near something old, unresolved, and deeply human. When a place earns that kind of reputation over time, it becomes bigger than a single ghost story. Wilson Springs is haunting not because it is loud, but because it is quiet enough for people to notice what they cannot explain. Number 4. The Old State House, order over unrest. The Old State House is one of the most historically important buildings in Arkansas, but its significance also makes it fertile ground for ghost lore. As one of the oldest surviving state capitol buildings west of the Mississippi, it has witnessed political upheaval, wartime tension, public ceremony, and generations of change. Buildings that long become symbols of a state's identity often develop equally powerful legends of lingering spirits. Visitors and staff have reported strange experiences over the years, including unexplained sounds, odd sensations in empty rooms, and the feeling that the building is occupied by more than history. The Old State House has stood through periods when Arkansas itself was being defined, which gives it a weight that many haunted locations never reach. Its haunting appeal lies in the contradiction between order and unrest. It was built to represent law, structure, and civic permanence, yet like many historic government buildings, it seems to carry the unresolved energy of all the debates, losses, and decisions that passed through it. Number 3. Old Main, memories stacked on brick and time. Old Main is one of the most recognizable buildings in Arkansas, and its haunted reputation is tied to both its age and its symbolic role on campus. First completed in the 1870s, the building has survived fire, restoration, and decades of student life. As the oldest building at the University of Arkansas, it represents continuity, tradition, and institutional memory. That memory is part of why the building has inspired so many ghost stories. Students and staff have reported unusual sounds, flickering lights, phantom footsteps, and a feeling that the building is inhabited by something more than daily campus activity. Old Maine's long survival gives it a kind of personality. It has watched generations arrive, study, leave, and return in memory. Universities often collect legends because they bring together youth, tradition, and old architecture in a single place. Old Main embodies all three. It feels less like a classroom building and more like a witness to time itself, and that is exactly why so many people think it never truly goes quiet. Number 2. The historic Hempstead County Courthouse, Washington. The historic Hempstead County Courthouse in Washington is a classic example of a Southern courthouse whose physical beauty contrasts sharply with its uneasy reputation. Built in the 19th century, the building is a reminder of the region's early civic life and the many public dramas that unfolded within its walls. Over the years, the courthouse has been associated with stories of unexplained sounds, strange movement, and a sense of being followed or observed. Courthouses are often haunted in local lore because they hold the residue of judgment. They are places where conflicts became official, where lives were altered by verdicts, and where the emotional stakes were often enormous. The Hempstead County Courthouse has that kind of gravity. It stands in a historic town that already feels suspended between eras, which only strengthens its eerie reputation. What makes this courthouse especially haunting is the way it combines preservation with unease. It is a building people admire, but also one they describe in lowered voices. That tension gives it a place near the top of any Arkansas haunted countdown. Number 1. The Arkansas State Hospital, Little Rock. At number 1 is the Arkansas State Hospital, one of the most infamous haunted locations in the state. Large psychiatric hospitals often attract legends because they sit at the intersection of suffering, secrecy, and institutional memory. The Arkansas State Hospital has a long history tied to mental health care in the state, and over the decades it has become surrounded by stories of ghostly encounters, mysterious sounds, shadowy figures, and an atmosphere that people describe as profoundly unsettling. This kind of place carries a different weight than a hotel or cemetery. Its history is not just about death, but about pain that was often hidden from public view. The older reputation of psychiatric institutions across America includes overcrowding, outdated treatments, and the loneliness of people separated from the world outside. That history leaves a powerful impression, and in a building like this, the stories of hauntings feel inseparable from the emotional reality that produced them. The Arkansas State Hospital stands at the top of this list because its haunted reputation is not built on one famous legend, but on the sheer accumulation of decades of unease. It is the kind of place where every hallway seems to hold a memory, and every silence feels too deliberate to be empty. Before we close, Arkansas's haunts still linger. Arkansas haunted history is defined by more than ghosts. It is shaped by the state's oldest buildings, its deepest tragedies, and the way memory settles into places long after the people are gone. From grand hotels to courthouses, cemeteries to hospitals, these locations remain compelling because they connect folklore to real history.